What's up, everybody? Like, I can't even talk. What's up, everybody? Today with me, I have Pierre Sully of ATF Athletics. What's up, man? How are you?
I am doing good. What's going on, Kate? How you doing?
This is it. This is it. I'm so happy to see your face because it has been way too long since we've seen each other.
Yes. It's been a long time. Like we said, probably 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, this is gross. We were
Crazy.
just, yeah, right before I hit record, we were just trying to figure out the timeline of when we've seen each other.
Yeah.
It's been about 2.5 years. And the thing is we live maybe a half hour away from each other, but it's
Yep.
just
It's
life
life.
is like, oh,
Life, definitely.
life, life. So tell me about your life. I cannot even talk today. Tell me about your life, man. I was gonna say, but no. Tell me about yourself, Pierre, because I don't know if a lot of my viewers have actually met you yet. So I want to get like little deep dive intro about you and about your brand and hear all about that good stuff. So I will
Well,
let you have the floor, my friend.
thank you. Boston native. I'm from Jamaica Plain, by way of 7th Street, Mozart. Uh, if you're familiar with the trains, that's the Orange Line, Jackson Square. But like I said, I went to college in Boston, Roxbury Community College, and then Northeastern. Finished my playing career at Franklin Pierce University in New Hampshire. Played 2 years of professional basketball overseas in England and Singapore, and finished off in the PBL with the St. John's Millwright, Canada. After that, went to grad school, was a GA at the University of South Florida, finished that, came home, started coaching, came home, started coaching, and then for a few years I ran a youth center. And since 2012, yeah, 2012, yep, 2000, oh, excuse me, 2011, excuse me, I've been working at Cambridge Region Latin, working in structured academics, uh, which is a sub-separate classroom setting for special ed teaching. We don't use the word special ed. We use Office of Special Services now. That's the correct term. But like I said, been working with that group since 2011 at Ringen Latin. And then after that, I started my own training company, which is by way of just falling into it. I was a personal trainer first in the Cambridge area. I was running youth classes. I was running adult classes at night. But I was still coaching. I was still training. And then it's crazy because I kind of fell into the basketball training world, not trying to do it. It's just like one of those situations where, I do my boot camp class, I'll do my field class, and then I work out one of my friends. And from there, it just kind of took off. Started working with high school kids, then working with college kids, and started working with professional athletes, and then started working with NBA athletes. And then from there, from about 2016 and now is when I licensed the company, the LLC for my company. I guess I could say that's when I started really kind of diving into it and taking it seriously. Before, it was just a situation where I was just, you want to protect yourself. So let me get a limited liability. I have to do that. So I did that, and then the business just kind of grew organically, and people started coming, and people started calling, people started requesting. And so I've just been working with that population for a while.
Okay, I'm like in awe right now because I'm just thinking about the fact that I met you in 2006. So we're talking 15 years. And you just named off so much stuff that you've accomplished since I met you. And I'm like, damn, that you should be proud of yourself. I'm just like, oh my God, because I met you when I was still in college and you were like fresh graduate. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you have done so much. Like, this
And
is
it's crazy.
incredible. Yeah. To
And
like
that was
think
like the
that's like,
toughest time. Like, I think, like you said, '06 we met, and I was in the transition of like graduating, and my girlfriend at the time, your floor mate, you know, she was kind of, she kind of followed me to Boston. So, I was, fielding offers, trying to figure out what country I'd be, trying to figure out, trying to find an agent, and also trying to figure out what agent I wanted to be with. And that first year was really difficult. Like, that was probably the hardest moment, is like graduating from college, preparing all summer, waiting to get a call, getting calls, getting contracts, not liking the contracts, not liking the countries, and then focusing on, bigger and better. And then being on a college campus, just reminded me of like the carefreeness that I used to have. And like literally you graduate, you shake the hand, you get your diploma, and then you're in the real world. But I shook the hand, got into the real world, and then fell back into that academic piece, by being on the Emmanuel campus. And for me, it was just like an extra motivator to be on that campus and to meet you guys, and to be a part of the EC family, which is still kind of, it's just still a family. Like, they always make that joke of, I'm an honorary saint because
you
of that.
totally are 100%.
So like Dean Rismeyer see me, she's like, Pierre, like, how you doing? And I'm just like, hey, Dean. And I came back and I coached, which was crazy. So like I said, that was a crazy time, man. That first year or less than that first 2006 or 2007, that school year, I was like, man, great memories though. Great.
Absolutely.
Memories.
Well,
Memories
honestly, like
about myself.
one of my first memories, I mean, exactly what you said, like your girlfriend at the time only lived like 2 or 3 doors down from me. So it's like, I would see her every day. We'd say, what's up? One of my first interactions with you, I mean, first of all, it almost like exactly what you said. It's like you were an Emmanuel student. I like never thought otherwise. You were like on the floor and you're like, hi, Katie, I'm Pierre. And it was just like, I remember how nice you were to me. And I'm just like, this is like so funny because like you didn't have to say hi to me. You didn't have like whatever, but you were just like so friendly right off the bat. And I was like, I like him. He's a really nice guy. And it's just like, it's like you just like kind of like fell right into, being one of like the Emmanuel students. And it's like to this day, I mean, we were just talking again off camera, like one of our friends hosts, and hopefully again soon after COVID clears up, but like a yearly basketball tournament. So if like nothing else, when life and time like runs away, it's like I always knew I was going to see you at the tournament. You're always a part of it. You were always, so it's like you really are a saint. Like even though you went to other schools, you're always a saint, man.
I know. And like you said, it's just like I remember the interactions in the hallways, and then being there every day. Like I couldn't be home because it was just like I wake up in my bed and I'm just like, I go do my workout and I come home and I'd wait for her to finish basketball practice or class or anything like that. And I was like, I was like, dude, I'm not working. Like, I'm all set. I got money. Like, I'm straight. My expenses aren't crazy right now. All I'm doing is I could walk to Emmanuel from my house, literally. And
yeah, you were so close. Yeah.
Exactly. It was 2 train stops and a walk from Ruggles to Emmanuel. So it was like, it was nothing. So for me, I was just like, spending nights there and just waking up, getting breakfast, being in the cafeteria. Like, it put me in a place it gave me structure again. She had class, I had to go do a workout, or then I end up, and I got connected to Cambridge is one of my old high school friends. She ran the youth center and she gave me a job. It was like 12 hours a week. And I was probably getting like $300 a week or something like that for 12 hours. I'm like, yo, dude, I'll do that. Literally 4 days a week. And that was it. And that gave me another part of structure. So I'd go work out in the morning while she's in class, come back, then I'll go change. I'll go to work from friggin' 3. It was like from 2 to 5, 2 to 6. No, it was from 2 to 6. Yep, 2:30 to 6. And then I'll come back to Emmanuel, and then we'll be in the gym late nights playing basketball, or be in the Yawkey Center or eating at the calf, and then be on our floor just shooting the breeze, like whatever. So I became a part of the community at Julie Hall. So
yeah,
it was just
100%.
Like,
yeah.
it was just cool. And like I said, for you, it was like I met you, and I always say this to this day, and I say this to Nye, and I'm just like, yo, she was such a great soul. Like you like, you weren't like, oh my God, like, who is this guy? He doesn't even go to school here. Why is he
doesn't
always
even
here?
go here. That's a Mean Girls quote, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So think about it. There were some people that were like that. You know what I mean? There was some people that were like that, but there was a lot of people that was just like, yo, that's P. Like, that's her man. Like, he's cool. And then, it's for these are Andy's example. Andy would call me to his office to talk to her, talk to the other players, and help out and work out with the other players. So it was just like I became a part of that community unofficially, then officially. So
yes.
And it was cool. Like I said, that hallway we had, everybody was in Julie Hall. Like, everybody was there.
that was a good thing. And that's why I stayed on campus all 4 years, because I'm just like, because Emmanuel, I mean, when I started there, it was 1,200 students, which was the entire size of my high school. So I'm going from like, 2 towns combined for a high school to college. And it was so small that you really do get to know everybody and their siblings that come to visit and, their families, if you visit them over the summer break and all this stuff. And it was just like, I was officially dubbed like the mayor of Emmanuel because I knew everybody, I was like, like we're cool with this or that, like whatever. So like you being a part of our floor, like, cause it was, you remember, half girls, half guys on the floor. And it's like, sometimes like
down the hall.
Yes, exactly. And like our batteries would like, give out like when you had to punch the code into the girls' bathroom. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to go to the guys' bathroom. They're not going to care. It's just me, It's like,
I was funny because I remember a few times I'm like, yo, Katie, what are you doing?
I did not care.
Hey,
I was like,
even get mad. I'm like, shit, get it how you live it.
Exactly. But I'm just like, you know what? Like, so stupid. Like I could like go up a floor, down a floor. I was like, nope, it's like right around the corner. It is what it is. Like, because the lock was like never actually locked in the guys. But it's just like stupid stuff. Like, yeah. And like, I don't know if you remember Mark DeCruz. He lived on the floor.
I remember him. Yep,
yes. I love him. I haven't seen him in so long either.
He was cool too. He was cool.
He's such a good guy. I absolutely adore him. And I remember he was like freaking out, like obviously cracking up, but like also like, how does any human body produce that? But like, he was like, somebody pooped in the men's bathroom and this poop is like a mile long. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So of course my roommate and I were like, oh no, we're going to go in the bathroom and check this out. We didn't care. We're sitting there in the men's bathroom dying laughing. I'm like, why don't you guys flush this? You're so gross. But I'm like, this is how it was. We were just like all like one big family. And I don't even know why this story is a part of your interview, but I'm just like, it's like dumb stuff. I would like go in there, hang out. I'm like, whatever, like this is our home,
And like you said, that floor in itself, like we took care of each other. I mean, Sean was our I was gonna say Sean was our RA. You see? Like Sean,
he was your RA, so don't even like
exactly. Sean was our RA, Sean was cool. It was like me, you, John, Rob, Mark, who else is in that hall? Because Rob, Stud, John were roommates and somebody else, and then Sean was on the floor, Mark was on the floor, you, Jet. It was like, to be honest, it was just everyone. So once again, like you said, if you went to the bathroom and you came out the bathroom, we weren't like, the hell? We'd just be like, all right, man, we got to go about our business. Like,
right.
I got class, I got to go to work, you got class, you got practice or whatever. And it's like, everybody just, it was just whatever, man.
If
like,
it was any other
honestly,
girl, yeah, you guys would probably be like, what is she doing? But you're like, oh, it's just Katie. Like, no big deal. But I mean, like, Michaela and I would always leave and like, she and I were roommates junior and senior year. And like, we would always leave our door open because we're like, no, everybody just come in and hang out with us. Like, it was just like a social event every day of our lives. That's why I was like,
random story. Remember the time I brought, like, he was like my brother and his brother visited from the Army. We had the fashion show.
Yes.
It was like our entire hallway became like the chill, like after party, and I remember your door being open, like Katie, this is John, this is Michaela. They're like, hey guys, like come in, let's just go hang out, just drink. And like our room was like two doors down, and then we had our door open and Ross' door was down the hall. They was doing that. But like that was just an example of, like I said, it like I always say, like, man, I always reprimand. Like I feel like I went there. When we have alumni weekends, when Andy's tournament kicks off, which is always during alumni weekends, it's one of those situations. And plus, everyone that was there when I was there is still there.
Yes.
So even like Dan was a student, and Dan is now head of sports. He's an SID for Emmanuel. So it's just like, hey, you're back. Like, how is everything? And then, even with Alexis, even with like, Ellie, who's still there, like it's really like a family. And that's the one thing that I value. When I left Pierce, it was a scholarship school. So the mindset is a little bit different, and it's so far out. It's tough to like come back and visit. You have to work your way up to come back. Emmanuel,
that's a destination. Yeah. It's not like you're just in the city. Yeah.
Emmanuel's in the city. I could walk down. I could go say what's up to you guys. I could walk across the street, go say what's up to my people at Northeastern. I could walk down the street to Roxbury Community College and go say what's up. So like I said, Emmanuel was just one of those places where it was just like, everybody remembers your name and you're still there. And somewhere they're like, I know that person. And it's crazy. Mark runs the West End house.
Yes. Yep.
And here's how the alumni thing comes back full surface. 2 years ago, damn, it feels like it was just yesterday. I did Darius Baisley's pre-draft. He plays for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And New Balance redid the Weston House court. So New Balance calls me up. He's like, hey, is it possible that you could at least do like 2 or 3 workouts during a week at our court? So I'm like, yeah, that's no problem. Like, just send me the address. I'll do it. They send me the address. They don't tell me the name of the address. They're like, here's our contact. Call him when you get there and he'll let you in. So they send me an address. I'm driving and Brighton. So as soon as you hit turns in Brighton, you're like, whoa, am I going to the Weston house? I'm like, nah, I can't be going. That's not. And then I pull up at the Weston house. I'm like, what the hell? So I call the guy. I'm like, hey, Mark, this is Pierre. I'm outside. Can you let me in so I can bring my equipment in? He's like, oh, yeah, cool. Opens the door. We're walking up. He's like, Emmanuel. And I'm like, wait, what?
You're like, yeah.
Oh, he's like, what's up, brother? I'm like, yo. And
so
it was crazy because as soon as we both literally could hear a click. And we're like, man, how's everything going? And it's like, hey, you remember? I'm like, dude, I remember. We was all on the floor together. Like I remember you. And he's just like, and he runs it. So it just made that spot. Like I grew up playing in the Weston house. So first of all, that was one part. And then, to watch what New Balance did to it, like refurbished it, redid everything. It was beautiful. And then to have somebody who I made a connection with years ago is my point person who's running point for New Balance at that specific location. I'm like, that was dope. It's full circle. And that's the thing that I loved about Emmanuel is like the networking, the alumni network stretches from here to Florida, to Puerto Rico, to Vegas, to California, and even to China when Andy took those girls to China. So as I said, I really appreciated the time that I spent on that campus with you guys. And then fast forward, me coming back and coaching for the school and feeling more part of it. The hardest thing for me was taking that job with the Celtics and leaving those girls. Andy was crushed.
I love how like anybody else would celebrate, like I got a job with the Celtics and you're just like, my Emmanuel girls, I'm going to miss you.
I promise you, the first year I interviewed, I didn't get it. I mentally and where I was at, I was not ready. And then I told Andy's like, oh man, what am I going to do? Like, how Andy kind of worries a little bit and he wants you to succeed. Andy's a person that wants you to succeed. But when I told him I didn't get it, he was like, all right, let's get to business. The second year I had an outstanding summer, like professionally, company-wise, I was just all over. And, they kind of took notice and one of the scouts for the team, he was a assistant to the GM, reached out to me and he was like, hey, we're going to go in a new direction, get a new coach, interviews me. Would you want to be a part of the family? I'm like, hell yeah, interviews me. I held on for so long. I found out about, I accepted in August. I probably told Andy around September or so, but Andy was hearing that.
So it really wasn't that much of a secret by the time you told him, right?
Yeah, because he asked me, he's like, hey, you're coming back, right? And I was like, he's like, what? And I told him, he's mad. He's like, fucking damn it. And I'm just like, he's like, I'm happy for you. You got to tell the girls, but you can't tell them now. Because if you tell them now, they might quit. So he's like, they might quit. Like they'll lose their shit. I'm like, no, I got it. We could bring them in. But the girls, they follow me on social media. They saw everything. And they were just like, yo, we knew it. It wouldn't be fair for you to stay. But it's an opportunity like that.
It's so beautiful that like you can say that I don't want to say necessarily like you've outgrown a role, because I think that you would still be like so passionate about that role if you kept it for years and years and years after that. But like to have different opportunities that are going to give you a broader network outside of the Emmanuel community and like for potential like business avenues to open up, like you as sad as it is, but like people have to be happy for you. There's like no other way. They're like, yeah, we're gonna miss seeing you every day, but you're doing
Yeah,
this for yourself. Like, and that's
yeah,
like the most incredible part. Yeah.
yeah. And the girls, they all supported me. I wanted to come in with the class and graduate with the class. As a coach, you want to do stuff like that. But they all understood. And the thing about it is, like, when I wasn't on the road, when I had to make my transition to Maine as well, coaching with the Red Claws, when we wasn't on the road, or when they were on the road and I was home, I would always come back to Maine.
Yeah.
I would always come back to their practice. I knew I had it. Andy still sends me emails to this day. So I knew their practice schedule. I knew their game scouts, everything. And I would send him little notes or whatever. And I would come to practice and I'd come to games and I would still, as long as I could, I would be there. And they knew that. The girls knew that. The only thing that hurt me is a year that I left, I actually recruited a girl to come. She was with me in Cambridge, girl Yaleska. She came and I left. And I was like, yo, like, person was like, YOLO, I'm sorry. She's like, Pierre, you have to do this. Like, thank you. I'm like, you're going to score 1,000 points and you're going to win championships. And I said, and you're going to be an All-American. I told Andy, I said, if you get this girl, she'll score 1,000 points. She's going to probably be one of the all-time leading scorers. And she would be an All-American in a 3-year conference, all-conference player for you. He's like, you think so? I'm like, he knew, but he like, he's been doing it for 40 years. So he's
Right.
like, we'll see about that. I was like, all right, watch.
You're like, but
Still
here's
average.
the affirmation to prove to you that she is
Yeah.
worth it. But this is like, again, talking about things coming full circle. This is stuff that you do current day. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like scouting and, really looking for talented, passionate people to be in a role. Cause it's like, you can't coach and train people if they're half-assing it. So you're like, no,
Wow.
this girl has the willpower to do it. She will do this for you, for your team, everything, for herself, of course.
Work ethic unmatched. And she's a type of player that would have been great for those throwback teams when you were in school, when we were in, so I could say when we were in school because we shared time. But that run when Andy was winning friggin' 28 games and only one loss, and if Yola was on that team, Andy wins the national championship.
Yeah.
If he was on that team, or he at least gets to the final game. She is a generational talent. Every year there's like, Amon was that, Tish was that, Jade was that. Like, Andy's been spoiled. He's had great talent. But I said, she is the one that's going to bring you back to that type of feeling, because she's going to defend, she's going to rebound, she's going to score. Those are the 3 pillars that you want. Absolutely. And she averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds for 3 years. So
you can't argue or debate facts. I mean, like her work proved itself, obviously. And I think he owes you a big thank you still to this day for recruiting her. You're like, no, but that's exactly what it is. Like, just those names that you mentioned, like, the women's basketball team was just, if not more powerful than the men's team. And I was friends with everybody on like all sports teams or whatever. So I can't really like be partial and, be like, oh, there was amazing men's basketball players, but there was like phenomenal women's players there. So I'm like, we can never like discredit anything, because women's sports, like, people don't pay attention. They don't appreciate as much. And I'm like, no, these women are powerhouses.
But here it goes. Emmanuel was an all girls school. So
yeah, until 2001. Yeah,
exactly. So until traditionally, like, they have all the tradition. So you can't get upset with that. Emmanuel recruited me. I was like, no, I'm not going there. Are you kidding me? And it wasn't like, and they're recruiting pitchers like, hey man, there's a 10-to-1 ratio. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'm not going there. I used to come here. Like, I played my high school state tournaments in this gym. I'm not coming here. And my talent was, I was a scholarship level player. But, they use a relationship that I had with the coach at that time to try to bring me in. And Jamal was a coach. Yep. That's a relationship. He's like, yo, come. And I'm like, nah, that's not happening, buddy. I respect y'all. I appreciate y'all, but we have to, their pitchers like, we have to do that. I was the number 1 player in that area, in the region. I was an All-American coming out of junior college. So they had to do that. Like, if they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't walk down the streets of Roxbury Community College and say, hey, Pierre, we want you. We want you to help jumpstart our program. Nah, buddy.
You're like,
Not gonna
don't put it
happen.
all on me though. Like that's a lot of pressure
Like,
to like have like
to
one
be honest,
all-star student make
it's
a
not
difference.
even, the pressure that I would have had to help jumpstart a program did not even equate to the pressure it is to playing at Roxbury Community College. Roxbury Community College is a national basketball powerhouse program. They compete for the national championship. They're in the Final Four, the Elite Eight every single year. They're ranked top 5, top 10 every single year up until, I don't know, probably 2012, maybe 2011 or something, 13. They've been nationally ranked, and just recently they just kind of, rebuilt. But like me, when I came in there, the pressure was we're basically on a 60 game winning streak, and you got to keep that going.
Ooh!
We're on 30, let's say 30-week ranked number one is in the AP poll for junior colleges. You got to keep that going.
And you're like sweating, like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly.
why
It's
me?
like,
Yeah.
they haven't lost a game. We lost 3 games. We were 80, I think it was like 82-3 in like 3 years or 2 years, something crazy like that. And that's the standard that they had. So for me, my biggest thing was the alumni. And I was an All-American. And if you go to the Reggie Lewis, you'll see everybody's names against the wall, the guys that was there before me. And there was years where it's like back to back to back to back to back All-Americans. And then after me, there was a huge gap before the next All-American. So that says a lot about the type of talent that was coming in there. So like I said, Emmanuel, if me going to Emmanuel was something. Give me 1 second. Can you feel that? Me going to Emmanuel was pressure on my shoulder. Like, no, that was nothing. But playing at Roxbury Community College in my city,
something. Yeah.
In my city, and seeing my peers, it's a lot. It was a lot. Like games sold out, entire city of Roxbury's there, and I'm playing in front of my peers. So that was tough for me. But other than that, Emmanuel, I love, like I said, I have a lot of respect for Andy when he's done a lot for that program. So when we kind of go back to talking about the girls and the boys program, of course, the girls is a standard. It's kind of like being at UConn. Like the girls is a standard of the program, but the boys is outstanding. Jim Calhoun built a beast. Him and Gino came in the same year and did the same thing. So it's like the same exact situation. They identify women's basketball, UConn. Men's basketball, there's all these other teams, and then you'll have UConn in the piece. But when it comes to manual basketball, it's the women's team, and then everybody else has to chase that greatness that they have. I mean, you go into the Yaki Center, you walk into that gym, you see the banners.
Yep.
And now it's like we're starting to see other banners, which is great. I love that. Lacrosse, volleyball, cross country, men's basketball. Like you love to see that. And the program, the way the program is going now with, Danny Lawson, who's somebody that I played against in college. He played at Bentley. I played at Franklin Pierce. Like there's a lot of battles. He's 2-0 against me. So, that he's a guy that has a lot of basketball pedigree from his dad, spent time, in the professional ranks with the Celtics as well, and then spent time at a Division I program. So he runs the program in that manner. And you've seen it. His first year, they won. The year before, they won 3-4 games. He comes in and they win 20 games. So there's a standard there that he's creating, and I love it because now it's like when you play, like when we travel and goes to play Johnson and Wales or them schools, they're like, damn, we know the women's team is going to be, at least we'll beat the men's team. There's none of that anymore. It's like, damn, it's going to be 2 good games, men's and women's. We better come to play. And that's the transition that I love, that I love watching, the Emmanuel. And like I said, I feel like an alum when I see the boys doing well and the girls as well.
Listen, I feel like we need to have you as an honorary graduate of Emmanuel. We need to talk to somebody on campus. So next time they have an in-person graduation, we're like, we are giving you an honorary degree, Pierre. You better come with your cap and gown and be ready in the parking lot, because that's always like where they just set up the tent. They're like, here's your graduation.
Right by the library.
Right, exactly. Cardinal Cushing for life. No, but I just love the evolution of, I mean, I've been talking a little bit about it, but like where you start where you started, no, like where you were when I met you until now, but just the evolution of having the opportunity to go to different schools, play for different programs, see where you are now. Because you also mentioned that you went to Singapore. You've been all over. I want to actually like dive in because I know that you've traveled quite a bit. So it's like as much as you have like these deep, deep roots in the Boston area, like your network is international. So we can't like not talk about that. Like we need to like highlight this moment too, because you've done a lot of work like overseas. I'm like, I see your pictures, you're traveling all over the world doing all this. I'm like, you were crushing it, you know? I'm like, right now we can't do anything, but yeah, talk about some of your experiences, like going overseas, like what like most memorable trip was, whatever you want to talk about.
I think my most memorable trip is like, and I'd say this from an ignorant standpoint. When I went to Singapore, I'll never forget it. I get a phone call like, "Hey man, I got a deal for you to go to Singapore, blah 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 blah." I'm like, Singapore? I'm like, no, I ain't going to goddamn Singapore. I ain't going to no third world country to go play no basketball. Are you kidding me? Nah, man, you don't understand. What do I understand? You got to Google it, man. Google Singapore. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to that country that if I walk down the street, I might get kidnapped. Like, ignorant. The whole time, and I say, and I'm like, you know what? I Google it. I'm like, all right, whatever, man. It doesn't look that bad. All right, I'll go. Flight goes. I fly out of Jersey. Never forget. Now I fly out of LaGuardia, New York. I'm on the plane. It's a 16-hour flight. First of all.
Yep.
We ended up load. I'm like, man, I'm going to Singapore. Like, what the heck? Get off. Finally fly to Singapore, and then there's another 10-hour flight from Germany to Singapore. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. So I finally get there. Mind you, we're a day ahead or whatever the time zone difference is.
Yep.
We land. I left in the morning. No, I left at night. No, we left in the morning, landed at night, landed in the morning. Something crazy. I get off the plane, we board in, I'm walking out. I'm holding my bags, waiting. And then all of a sudden, I was inside of a mall. I was
That's
like,
yo. Asia for you. Yep.
I was like, yo, what the heck? There's palm trees in the mall. In the airport, excuse me, I'm saying the mall. There's palm trees. It's high. It's like I was walking in Cambridge Side Gallery. That's how high the ceilings were. Cambridge Side Gallery, like whatever. I'm like, Jesus, I'm just walking like baggage claim. And then here comes my guy, our driver that's coming in. I'm just like, yo, dude, where are we? I don't know the weather. Hoodie, sweatpants.
And then you're like melting once you get out there.
As soon as I walked out, Katie, it would look like Hawaii. I got at that airport. I got my bags, threw it in the car. We get in the bus. I'm like, man, yo, I'm in Hawaii. And it completely changed my perception. But here it goes. Yeah, like every country, like that. I forgot who said that. X Cube or somebody said, you know, there's a hood in every country, in every spot in America. There's a hood everywhere. So you have your nice part and then you have your bad part. I stayed in the nice part. The people my teammates, the Americans, we're in the nice part. Downtown, walk around the corner, 5, 6-star hotels is not. There's only one 6-star hotel in Singapore.
Yep.
We're at a 5-star hotel, a 5-star compound. That's where we stayed, and it was beautiful. Hawaii, New York, with an overseas feeling. You could drop your food on the ground, pick it up and eat it. You ain't gonna see no gum. First of all, you're not allowed to chew gum out in the streets of Singapore. You're not allowed to spit because those are fine. You'll get fined.
Yes.
And jaywalking is really enforced.
Yep.
So I'm chewing gum and I literally went like this in my pocket.
You're like, I'm not about to get a fine right now for just trying to have fresh breath.
I'm not about to have somebody steal my passport and I can't get home. And then I'm over here breaking rocks at some jail in Singapore. Like, I'm all set.
I would have bailed you out. I probably didn't have any money then because I was like working for scraps at J. Crew at that time. But like,
oh my goodness.
But what a different experience.
It was amazing. Great fan base. I mean, food is food. It was American food. It was Western food. It was everything. It was New York in that sense. Like you could get whatever type of food you want. So that was great. And like I said, that experience changed me. And then, you know, being in England and diving into their culture, um, my experience in England playing in there, I loved it because everybody's like, oh, England's easy. It doesn't feel, I'm like, bro, that's a different type of English, first of all. I
Yeah.
had to take my teammate with me so I could open up my bank account because
No
I couldn't
way.
understand what the hell I didn't understand a word. I'm like, what? You got to do this, yeah? So you got to come here and you got to feel like this, yeah? So when you come through, I'm like, 1 second. Hey, Lee, man, I'm going to need you to come meet me downtown, man. I'm at Barclays. Come meet me. Drives over and he's just like, hey, they're just asking if you want to check in and save in an international. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get that. Do you want a bank card? Yeah, I'm going to need that too.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah,
just like, we are speaking the same language, but why is it vastly
exactly.
different? And you're like, I took the tube here and I used the loo before I left, but that's all I know of
Exactly.
English. You know, you're
Man,
like,
it
what the hell?
was amazing. England, pastries, A1, mud pies, like people would like they would say, great food. I loved it. I dove into the English culture as well. Like it's crazy because when I came back last summer, I had like this little English accent because of
Oh,
what I was saying. Like it wasn't purposely, it was just like, you know, dropping certain words like boot car, like yeah, like everything is like, you know, you speak and you say yeah, you know, you got to check back, come like we had practice, yeah, all right, so we're gonna go down the street, yeah, all right, cool, let's load up the stuff and put the stuff in the boot, yeah, like you'd start talking like that, and
you're
that's like
emulating your
London.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they love the way I spoke because they're like, they love the American language, like things I say, I'm like, yo, like what the running joke was, my teammates, like we used to go out, we used to call it Fun Day Fridays, and that was our always our day off before we had to travel on a Saturday for a game. And we'll go recover at a sauna, at a spa, get a massage, everything, and then we'll go out to like Pizza Hut or like Chinese food or whatever. You know, we'll just that was our cheat day in a sense. Relax, get some food. Tomorrow morning we're on the bus, go away for our road games and stuff like that. And I was holding my stuff, and I was like, yo, I said, my guy, it was Lee. I said, yo, Lee, open the trunk, bro. And he's like, what? I said, yo, pop the trunk, man. He's like, what the hell is the trunk? And I was like, the back of the car. He was like, oh, the boot. I said, the what? I'm like, bro, he's like, yeah, pop the boot. I'm like, we don't say that, man. That's a trunk. He's like, no, that's
The
called a boot.
boot.
Yeah. So I'm like, and then I'm so used to saying, like hearing them, I'm like, yo, let me put my stuff in the boot. Yeah. And when I came home, I was talking just like that. And it was just like, people are looking at me like, Pierre, like, what the hell? But like I said, I dove into the culture because I think the mistake that a lot of us do when we go overseas, and I wish somebody would have told me that, is that we try to make it what we are used to back home
Yeah.
instead of like adapting to it and make it your own. And that's what I did. Like I made it my own to the point where it came, to the slang, to the music. I kept the way I dressed, and then you change the way you dress. Nobody likes coats in England. It doesn't, it's the worst. When I mean it's gray, you'll see a sun for 10 minutes and then the clouds will come in.
Yep.
And it's like, it was one of those. And I went to Ireland to play, and it was the same way. I was like, yo, what is it with this part of the region is like, it's just gray. But
So
like I said,
depressing. Yeah.
it's extremely depressing. And like I said, I used to go take walks by myself. I'd walk into town. I'd go eat at little spots, hole in the wall spots for food. I'd go walk to like restaurants and, dive into their culture and stuff like that. I used to go to this little Irish restaurant that was there, in the northern part of England where I was in Middlesbrough. Um, there was a lot of, there was a Irish feeling because once again, United Kingdom is Ireland, Wales, and all those fit together. So in the northern part of it, there's a huge like presence, an Irish presence in that area. So, you'd have your restaurants, that pubs, like they would say, you would have your pubs where, you'll do that. You could get that type of cuisine and stuff like that. Like I said, I dove into it and it was great, man. The initiative, the playing, like Tony Hansen, rest in peace, gave me my opportunity. He bought me my first laptop when I became a professional. When I started getting into the video coordinating and stuff, he bought me my first laptop. And, he was a guy that was from Waterbury, Connecticut. He went out and played all these years, played for the Utah Jazz, finished his career overseas, and he settled in England, and he's never left ever since then. And I could see why he didn't. And my goal is to somehow migrate to England and just do my thing out there. I still talk to a lot of my teammates. So like I said, the culture in itself, like I dove into that, and the initiative that we ran was called Hoop Dreams. And, you know, there's no gym classes in schools in England. Like
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
So, you know how we're used to having, you know, our phys ed teacher.
Yep.
In England, it's not like that. Well, at least in parts of England, it's not like that. At least in the northern part, they would hire me to be a gym teacher for 7 different schools.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's where the money is when it comes to sports and phys ed. So part of one of the sponsors for our club was Hoop Dreams, and it was a part of my contract was I had to teach gym classes at these schools. So it was amazing. Like England was great, and then obviously I've done work in Honduras. I actually did a clinic, and I ran the national team, men's and women national team practices. I was out there for a week. I did 2 clinics, I did 2 seminars, and I ran 4 practices when I was in Singapore. It was amazing. And also Bulgaria.
I don't think I knew about Bulgaria. Okay.
Bulgaria, 2 summers. Last summer, obviously couldn't go. This summer, it actually got off. I spoke to the federation 3 weeks ago, and going back this summer, God willing, heading back out there this summer to run the camp. And it's
yeah,
exactly. So Bulgaria was a great experience. It took me a while to adapt to the because it's so far in between from the time that I was playing to the time that I actually had to go back to like Eastern Europe to be around there. So it was crazy. But it took me, like I said, I was out there for about 10 days. By day 7, I started like, you know, eating the food there and stuff like that. I wasn't like running to Subway like, every chance that I got.
Pack my snacks for this trip because you don't know what kind of food awaits me in this country. So
and it's a tale of two tales, because the first year I went, I was in the city. It was great. I had a mall right next to my hotel. So I'd wake up, it had Dunkin' Donuts. I'll go go to Dunkin' Donuts, get like a little hot coffee, or get hot chocolate or something, or get a donut or sausage, egg, and cheese croissant like we like. And then I'll go back to my hotel, my ride come, and I go to the gym. The second year we did it in the country. So
whole different experience.
Yeah, a whole different experience, man. They put something on my plate. I was like, what's that? Oh, that's just sausage. I ate it. I said, bro, this is not sausage. I'm all set. Where the salad at?
Yeah, you're like poking at it with a fork. You're like, what the hell is this? What did you?
Not to be disrespectful at all, but that's how it was. And then after that, I told one of my old college teammates, he lives out there. He finished his playing career. Same thing. He still plays. He finished his career out there. He's married with his wife and kid. And I was like, his name is Jimmy. I was like, yo, Jimmy, man, I need to go to a supermarket or something, bro. Go to the supermarket. I bought bread is amazing in overseas, period. But in Bulgaria, they had this fresh baked croissant bakery, man. I bought like 20, 30 croissants. I bought 2 tubs of cream cheese and cheese and a case of water and a case of Pringles. And that was my meal for that time. Croissant and cheese, bagel and cream cheese, or croissant and cream cheese. My snack was a Pringle and Oreo. Excuse me, I love my Oreos. And then I would have my water, or if I spoil myself, I have a Pepsi. I like the soda out in Europe. It tastes a lot better too.
Wait, I was going to ask that about like even the Oreos and the Pringles. They taste different, don't they?
Oh yeah, fresh. It's fresh food.
Yes.
Put it like this: KFC. The first year I would go to KFC. I go to what's it called? Subway. And then I forgot what's the other spot. It's like it's kind of like a Dave and Buster's, where it's like the same type of food.
Okay,
the food was so much better. Like the chicken just tastes different. The meat in the subs taste different. Like I said, the Dave and Buster's type, I forgot what it's called, but I'm gonna just say Dave and Buster's. The food was just great. The sushi was amazing at that place. Great. I'm like, man, I could eat this all the time. But
yeah, you're like American food is trash. I mean, that's like when I went to Hong Kong. The pizza there, right? You don't think Hong Kong is like yeah, pizza, right? I had pizza there that was like some of the freshest, most delicious pizza I've ever had in my entire
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, I am literally all the way across the world right now, and I'm
Yep.
having like the best pizza. Like the cheese was
Yeah.
so fresh and everything. And I'm like, of course, like pizza, like the food pyramid is a triangle. Like pizza's a triangle. That's my food pyramid. Pizza's
Yeah.
like life,
But
right?
and another thing, Domino's. Man, like we got Domino's. I can't eat a whole pizza. It's impossible. Domino's pizza is impossible. Coming from the countryside and coming back into the city because I had to fly out. He was like, "You want a pizza?" I said, "I'm gonna get a whole one." And if I can't eat it, I said, "I ate the whole thing," but I didn't feel like crap after,
Right, because it's
which
not
is the
super
best.
processed. Yeah.
Exactly. That was like when I did that, I was like, man, the food out here is really different. But like I said, for me, if like the culture, I dove into the culture. I try to learn the words, like like Zelaski. What's it? What's the word that I used to say? Dobre su means like thank you very much or something. I think it's thank you very much. Dobre, you say dobre, like thank you. So like I try to learn little things just so I could get by. And like I said, I dove into the culture. Like the kids were awesome. Like the country in itself is there's a lot of history in that country in Bulgaria, which with the Turkish, their wars and stuff like that. And just learning about, little nuances about, how people view people and stuff like that. So, you know, that to me, like that Bulgaria trip, I'm just like, it makes me miss Europe because once I'm in eastern part of Europe, and that's a lot. It's a war. It's part of the area in the country in Europe where there was a lot of war and there's a lot of turmoil, whether it was like religious wars and just basically war. Like there's a lot of things going on out there, and I think that going back, I see something different every year. The last 2 years, I saw something really different, and then going back for a third time, now I'm going to be seeking like, hey man, what's this? And then they're building up. So a lot of things has changed. So like I said, that experience for me that was great. And right now I'm a part of the Haitian national team. We haven't been able to get out there because of everything that's going on, but being able to go back to my native country and teach basketball and working on a national scale as we have our own select team and system from you set under 18s, under 19, and then our men's team, and then identifying professional basketball players in the NBA to come represent their country. So like I said, those places that I've been, those experiences that I've gained, the places that I played, I try to live my life in that European style, like slow motion. And I
Yeah.
think that's the one thing I learned about Bulgaria. Nobody's in a rush. When it's lunchtime, it's a 2 hour lunch or 2.5 hour lunch. Guys sit out, drink coffee, and they just chill. Like we're so used to, all
So
right,
fast.
check
Gotta
please.
go. Bye. Check,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, the waitresses, they're running up with his check. Hey, is that all? Can I get your check? There's none of that. You sit down, you eat food, and you're just sitting there like this. We sat in a restaurant for almost 2.5 hours one night
Like, no big
outside.
deal.
No big
Yeah.
deal at all. And I'm like, man, this is dope. And then I come home and I'm slow motion. And then I get back into my American ways of rushing everywhere. So, like I said, it's going to be great to be in that slow motion atmosphere when it comes to being overseas. And like I said, that's the thing that I loved about being overseas is like the freedom that you have, like the non-judgmental way that you live your life is amazing. And then just being able to, $10 it gives you it'll take you a long place. It'll take you far, which
Yeah.
is sounds crazy. It's like 10 American dollars you can enjoy your day with 10 American dollars in some countries. I
Yeah.
know in
For a
Bulgaria
week.
you
Yeah.
can. Yeah,
Like, yeah.
Bulgaria you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so crazy to think that like your talents, like originally is what brought you there, to all these different countries, like the love of basketball, the talent of being a basketball professional. But what you took out of those experiences so much more than just like going there to play basketball or to coach or train. You literally were immersed in the culture, the food, the environment. You're going to check out, landmarks, all this stuff. It's like
Yeah.
you really took that for being a whole experience and not just like, oh, I'm going to take it for granted. I'm going to sit in the hotel and I'm just going to do this. No, you
No.
literally were like, what are we going to do today?
Yeah.
How am I going to fulfill my time, to the best of my ability? And I do think, honestly, it does change your whole perspective of how you want to live. If you never had these experiences, I don't think you would be the same person that you are, that I know you to
Not at
be.
all.
Like, yeah.
Not at all. And the main thing for me when I was in middle school, my middle school vice principal told me that I wouldn't graduate high school and I wouldn't do anything.
Jokes
When I
on
got to
you,
high school,
MF.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When I got to high school, my guidance counselor insinuated it, but my middle school vice principal told me that I wouldn't graduate high school, and I did. And he told me I wouldn't play basketball, and I did. He told me I wouldn't play professionally, and I did. So, true story. My first year, no, I was on break, and I was so eager to get home. I had legit 10 days. No, I had 10 days off Christmas break. No one in the country plays. I flew home, and that was the year Emmanuel went to China. I flew home and visited everybody, and then I was like, man, I got to work out. I took 2 days off. I was like, I got to work out. So I went to work out, and then at the gym at my old high school at Brookline High, they were playing that weekend. So I was like, cool, I'll play. So I play, finish working out, I play, and then we're sitting at the gym. The town group is coming in to play, like the kids, little kiddies are coming to play, and then walks in my assistant principal from middle school.
Knew you were going to say this, and you're like,
Man,
hi.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, and I had changed so much. Like he hasn't seen me since I graduated eighth grade or
Well, you
whatever.
definitely, you didn't have facial hair. You didn't have any of that in
Nothing.
middle school. So
I
he
was
would know.
growing. I had this. I had this. You know what I mean? All of this. And I remember I just had this when I was like trying to grow everything, like a little bit of this. So, and I had dreads. Remember, I had dreads. So I had dreads.
Yep.
And then I sat there and I was like, oh snap. Oh, that's Mr. Dempsey. I'm gonna say his name, Mr. Dempsey. Patrick. No, it's not Patrick Dempsey. I forgot his name. Dempsey. So I walk up to him. I was like, hey, Mr. Dempsey, how you doing? He was like, hey, you look really familiar. And I said, yeah, I went to Devotion. That's the name of the middle school. He was like, Devotion. I said, Peter. He was like, what? Hey, man, how you doing? Conversation changed. He's like, man, look at you, man. Look at you, man. You grew up to be big. I said, yeah. What are you doing with yourself? I said, yeah, after I graduated college, I got my degree in psychology and I got a minor in social work counseling. I'm playing professional basketball now. Oh, well, really? Wow, where? I said, I'm in England. I'm in town for the week. So, got to come up. And he's just like, oh, wow, man. That's great, man. I knew you could do it. I said, yeah, I want to thank you for that. And I said, remember when I was in middle school? And he was like, oh, yeah. He's laughed. And I'm like, you told me I wouldn't graduate high school. You told me I'm going to go to college. And you told me I wouldn't be a professional at a sport. I said, I want to thank you for saying all that to me. He was like, oh, I was just trying to motivate you. I said, you did, but you actually meant it. So thank you. He's like, no, Pete. He's just like, no, I'm sure you're proud of you. It's like, no, it's cool. No love lost, but I want to thank you. So here I am. You're probably never going to see me again.
Mr. Dempsey.
Yeah, so
he's on my shit list now. But it's like, what kind of vice principal are you going to be? That's not motivation. That's literally shitting on your students. And it's like, thankfully, you had the self-worth enough to know that, like, no, I'm not going to listen to what he said and affect my whole life in a negative way. You took that and were like, that's motivation for me to like prove it to myself. I can do this. So
and as a kid, and then here it goes. Here as a kid, growing up in the inner city, I hate when people grow up in the inner city, but I did. I had the opportunity. My mom created an opportunity for us to move to the suburbs in Brookline. Lived in Brookline, did my schooling in Brookline. So, I'm a little rough around the edges as a kid, as a middle school kid, preteen, rough around the edges. I got into some trouble. I got in a lot of trouble. I took no shit from no one because, when you live in these towns, people think they could talk to you any way that they want. And it's not their fault. It's what they know and it's how their upbringing. Like, you can say whatever you want to mom and dad. You can say whatever you want to your teachers and your coach. That sense of entitlement.
And your mom would be like, don't ever touch me.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. So For me, like, privilege, like people say, oh, white privilege, like as a young person being in that predominantly white, and there's a Jewish community too. Brookline, is a very white and Jewish community. Being in that area, I never really saw the racism or anything like that, but and never really acknowledged and be able to identify privilege or entitlement. So, I got into trouble, but I also saw friends do the same thing and they wouldn't get into trouble. So I was a badass in their sense. So I didn't take no shit from you. You said something wrong to me, I didn't like it,
Yep.
and I'd get in trouble. I'll take that. But for him, as an educator, which I am right now, I would never say that to a student.
No,
And for
because
him
your
to say
character
that,
is something so different.
yeah,
But I feel
exactly.
like,
So I'll
yeah,
give him real rap. I'll be like, yo, bro, if when you get out of these walls, like in Cambridge, I have high school kids, white, black, green, purple, doesn't even matter. In special ed and OSS, all walks of life. I have kids whose parents are worth millions of dollars that are in these programs. So it doesn't matter, but I'm going to give you real life lessons.
yes,
When you walk out of this building and you graduate, you leave Cambridge, no one is going to care about you. But the beauty about Cambridge is whenever you leave, you can always come back. But I consider that to be an enabler, because these kids will go to college and they'll be like, oh, I hate this school. I'm just going to go back to Cambridge and work at Area 4. And then we welcome them in because they're a part of our community, which is great. But we're not teaching them how to deal with life lessons. So all of that stuff that I went through, I'm like, I knew I was going to make it regardless of what he said. But it just solidified. I'm like, how could a man do something like that to a child? And if he's not doing that to me, he's got to be doing it. If he's doing that to me, he's doing it to somebody else.
yep,
So my stance has always been like as an educator, I give the kids a real rap. Hey, you guys want to give them that cookie cutter conversation, you do that. Do not ask me to speak to them if you're not ready to hear what I have to say to them. And that's the only way that they're going to understand. And I think for me as an educator, the best gratification that I get is when my student texts me or Facebook messages me or Instagrams me, whatever, and say like, yo, Sully, thank you. Like,
that means like
you know what I
so
mean?
much
That it's
more than
everything.
anything else, right? Like that's like the value of that is priceless. But I
Yeah,
also think the beautiful part of Cambridge is the diversity. So I think it gives you the opportunity to have growing up in Jamaica Plain, then having the ability to go to school in a suburb like Brookline, and I
yep,
still consider Brookline like city-ish, but it's definitely more like
exactly.
neighborhoods.
It's a town.
Yes.
It's the town of Brookline, like they say.
Yes,
It's
it is. Yeah. And you've had like the experiences like on an education level to living level to, all of these things to be able to travel internationally and learn to go to Cambridge. And exactly what you said, you could have the poorest of poorest students in your classroom sitting next to somebody whose parents are like multimillionaires that works at a pharmaceutical company 3 blocks down the street. And you're just like,
yeah,
these kids, like, you have to treat them all the same, because at the end of the day the world is like gonna be handed to them one way or another, so it's just like, yeah,
yeah.
I want to be here for you, and like we're all equal. I don't care like what color you are, what religion you are, what gender like, no, we are going to be equal here, but I am going to give you information and educate you on the way that like you need to learn how to live life. Like you can't be
And
sitting there like, yeah, hand
and
holding and
Cambridge is the world. And
yeah,
honestly, Cambridge is what colleges are. And it
yes,
depends. And it's exactly that. It's like if you go to a lot of the kids in Cambridge, they go to these schools like the UMasses, some of them are lucky to go to Harvard. Like they leave and then they see like they're already trained to being around that certain demographic and these all walks of life. For me, I had the best of both worlds. I was in I hate saying in the hood, but I was in the hood with predominantly brown and black people and some Spanish or some Asian and some sprinkles of white, little. And then from there, I went to Brookline to a predominantly white setting. So I was here and then I was here. And what I learned there shaped me this way. And then it gave me this worldly view on the other side. And then by the time I got to college, I'll never forget it. I was recruited to go play at Bethune and Cookman basketball, HBCU. And people will probably hear this and be like, "Yo, you're bugging," or like you're a punk, or I don't care. This is my mindset. And I had an opportunity to go to Central Florida Community Junior College. and Orlando. Those are the two places in Florida I could have went to go play basketball. I was like, man, I don't want to go to HBCU. Like, as much as I want to be around my people, I don't want to be around my people. I want diversity. Like, I didn't go to HBCU because of diversity. My college coach, Ron Jackson, has a friend who coached at Florida A&M, FAMU. FAMU calls me. It's like, yo, we want you to come. Ron Jackson, I'm like, coach, I appreciate it, but, I don't want to go to Tallahassee. I'm all set. Like, thank you for that. He was like, if you're sure, you change your mind, come visit. I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. One, mentally, I knew I couldn't focus in an HBCU because there's just probably so much going on. And then it was just like being around all of my people. Like, I didn't want that. That's not how the world looks.
Right. I mean, a lot of the
Like,
times, like, you could celebrate having, because an HBCU holds so much value to these people that you would
exactly.
never normally meet otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's like diversity on that level, but to have everybody, like, and this is going to sound so stereotypical, look the same or very
Yeah.
similar. You're like, I want diversity from
Yeah.
everywhere, from different countries, from different parts of the world. And I feel like the diversity is not only going to be like the students that are coming through, because they are coming from all different, parts of the country or even like
Yep.
international, but living in the South is like the biggest part of the diversity. And I don't know if
Listen,
everybody can handle that. Like,
listen,
yeah.
that, and it's like not knowing what life after college was like, because my goal was, I need to find my best way to be a professional basketball player. I never want to play in NBA. I just want to be a professional basketball. I wanted to play in the NFL, but I never wanted to play in the NBA. I just wanted to be a professional basketball player. So I didn't know what alumni network is. I don't know what, alumni spread. If you go to the school, we could connect you with this. I didn't know all that. I just saw, an HBCU, and I'm like, I don't want to go there. No disrespect. I don't know about like that tradition. I just know that when I leave college and I move back up north, I'm going to see this, and this. I'm not going to see, all of this in the world that I work in unless I decide to stay in that area. So now fast forward it, South Florida, Tampa. So I go to University of South Florida, and the University of South Florida is one of the biggest schools in the country. It's top 10 biggest schools in the country. I think it might be top 5, but I'm gonna just say top 10. And there's all walks of life, and it's a huge campus. You're not gonna see everybody, but I worked in athletics, so I saw a lot of diversity in athletics. I saw Hispanic, I saw Asian, I saw white, I saw black, and they're all cross mingling, like European, whether it's volleyball, field hockey. I mean, it's all sports, all walks of life. And then when I go on campus, you see your sororities, your fraternities, you see everything, you see groups. And I'm like, but then again, it's when you leave that Fowler, Bruce B. Downs, you know what I mean? That area, that quadrant, then you start to see, like what you just mentioned, the other part of the South. I'm like, bro, there's a Confederate flag here. I don't need to be around here.
Nope. You're like, taking a
Somebody,
right. See you
somebody
later.
called
Yeah.
me boy. Like, who you calling boy? I don't need to see that,
Right.
because once again, I'm by myself. My family's an hour, 2 hours from in Orlando, and then my other part of my family that gets busy like that is in Miami. So you think I get into some stuff and they're gonna drive 4 hours, 2 hours to come help me out of bill? Like, I was like, no, I just got to be heady about where I'm at and know my environment. So when I did my time in Florida, I did my time and got out.
Yeah.
It wasn't do your time and let me see if I could live here. No, Florida was great to me. I learned a lot about myself, but it just wasn't a situation for me to be there and set up shop, like we like to say, to start to build from that area. I
Yeah.
needed to be home. I love seasons. I'm a New Englander. I love seasons. In Florida, around right now, it's probably like 60 degrees, 50, maybe 40 in the morning or 30 in the morning, and then it gets right back. Next month, it's going to jump up to like 70. The month after that, it's going to be 80, 90. So I'm like, I was cool with that. I was like, yeah, I'm all set with that. But like I said, it's like for me, like I said, my experience and how I decided to choose my school, I wanted diversity. Like I wanted to see what the world is. And glad I did that, because now in my endeavors, I'm able to play on all sides of the fence. Like I can go overseas. I can go in the Caribbean. I can go to the South. I can go to the West Coast. I could go to the Midwest. I could go to friggin' Portland, Maine, and feel comfortable in my skin.
Yep.
But I've seen people that go to certain schools and not be able to adapt to,
Well, yeah.
you know what I mean? They not be able to adapt to their surroundings. So
Yeah, I think with
that's
that, I mean, I think your upbringing, like in the earlier side, being in JP and then going to Brookline, like I think that you at a very young age had the idea of where you were going to thrive, you
yep.
know? So it's like where people really honestly would take such great pride and really excel in an HBCU or going to a specific school for, you know, academics or culture or whatever it is. You were like, no, I need to do what's best for me to thrive. And it's not the name of a school or the dynamic of the school. It's literally where I feel like I can thrive and like be a better person. And it's not just like
Yep.
the education, it's like the whole culture. I mean, even when Emmanuel literally was the only school I toured, the only school.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, I was like,
Wow.
oh, I'm going to go to Northeastern. I'm going to go to that. And I'm like, no, 25,000 students for undergrad. I'm like, I would have been a number, not a
Mhm.
name. Right. But
And it's
like,
crazy you said that because I went to Northeastern and that's how I felt. Like
yeah,
I went to talk to my professor about a class and he said, what's your name? I said, Sully. So what's your ID number? The dude was like 6'4". I'm like, and we had like 100 people in our lecture hall.
yeah,
And in high school, like I needed extra, like I had academic services. And I'm like, the biggest reason why I left Northeastern is, it was NCAA clearinghouse issues, academics. But the classroom stuff that I was going through, and then when I went to Pierce, I'm like, I excelled more at Pierce than I would have did at Northeastern. I
yeah,
didn't want anybody to illegally do my grades or anything. Like, not to say that they did that for me, but Northeastern, if you're an athlete, you find ways. But the fact that I couldn't get through the
preferential
clearinghouse,
treatment. Yes.
yeah, the fact that I couldn't get through the clearinghouse and I would have to do an extra semester and stuff like that. I'm like, it was a lot. And plus the fact that I couldn't go to my professor and ask for help. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. And when I
Yeah.
went to Pierce, I was meeting with my professors left and right
Yeah.
and with my academic advisor. And I owed them all credit to me double majoring. Like, it's crazy, but
It is.
here it is.
But I think, and it's so crazy, but at a young age, we know the right direction that we want to go. I mean, I went, it was like, oh, what was the name of it? Basically just like student acceptance day, right? It was like literally just, it was Martin Luther King Jr. weekend of my senior year. You give them your transcripts or any other, you know, information that they need in an envelope. You hand it off to them. Okay. You go and tour the campus and then you sit in the auditorium and they call you in one by one and let you know if you were accepted. Like
This is
literally in the same
where was
day
this at? Emmanuel?
at Emmanuel. I was
Oh
with my
wow, I didn't know
mom.
that.
Yep, I was with
Wow.
my mom and we toured the campus and then we sat in the auditorium and they called. They're like, Catherine Sweeney. I'm like, oh, here I am. You know, we sit in there. They're like, congratulations, you've been accepted. I look at my mom. I said, I'm going here. That was it. Like, it
Mhm.
was so easy. I was like,
That's
this,
real though.
because I knew, I knew at that time just the environment is something I was going to be happy. I'm like, school
Mhm.
education, it's, you're going to have a good education mostly like wherever you go in higher ed,
Yeah.
right? You have to like make what's best for you. But I'm like, the culture and just the environment and like feeling good and feeling safe is just equally as important as the academics. So when I was there, I'm like, I have a good vibe about this school. This is the place. And I looked at my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm going here. She's like, okay. That was it. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
am I still eyeballs like in debt still from going to Emmanuel? Yes, but I wouldn't change my like experience for anything, because I mean,
And
15 years later, you and I are still friends, you
and
know?
that's why I always tell people it's not about the education. You know what I'm saying? And it sucks to say that because, and I feel bad saying it's not about the education. I feel like, and I told my kids this, I'm like, college is about relationships that you build to get forward to where you went to get. I'm
Yes.
like, nobody remembers, like, I had behavioral statistics. I can't remember one lesson I did in behavioral stats.
Right.
I just know I hated that class. But I remember my professor. I know my professor's still there. You know what I mean? And on top of that, it's like I remember my friends. the people that helped me through it. And then on top of that, we're still friends to this day. And we're both doing things that we aren't even like, we have nothing what we're doing has nothing to do with our degree.
Right.
It has nothing to do. Amanda, I remember, like, we used to stay up and be like, yo, we need to figure this out. You know, Professor Fleming is bugging, man. We need to figure this out. Oh my God, we got Professor Flynn's class tomorrow and we have to study. And I used to call her my class wife because we would always be together, just studying everything. And she runs the center right now in New Hampshire. Oh no, she runs the center in Maine. And then when I went to go coach with the Red Claws, I invited her to a game. You know what I
Isn't
mean?
that amazing?
Or one of my friends, Jake,
From
he
State
was
Farm?
nah,
Okay.
Quimby. We used to call him Willow, my man Willow. That was his nickname. He's a radio personality in Laconia? Is it Laconia?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Laconia, New Hampshire. But he happened to be in Maine, and I invited him to. He's like, "Yo, P, I'm in town." Like, yeah. So he's using his relationship to get something he wants. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. And if I'm in a position of power, and I have, hey, Katie, hey, Pierre, how's it going? Hey, Katie, what are you doing with yourself? Oh, it's relationships. And like I said, with the manual, it's like Florida, California, freaking Puerto Rico, China, Texas. And, you know, my ex, she had her graduate school. She got accepted into her graduate school because of a relationship. It wasn't her education. It wasn't the fact that she was Dean's List or anything. Like, it helped her to get in, but it was a relationship from Dean Rismeyer that had with this person that helped her get down there. And then them meeting her face value and saying, we like this person. They didn't open up and see like, oh, transcript of this or that. They were just like, man, you're a great person. You'd be great for this program. The same way I got into my graduate program. My relationship started from my mentor, Jeff O'Brien, Northeastern. I was in a program called Mentors Violence Prevention, MVP, Sports and Society. Dr. Richard Lapchick is the founder of Sports and Society. His father, I think is it David or Richard Lapchick, was a coach for the Boston Celtics. He won like 4 championships with the Boston Celtics. Mr. Lapchick runs a center with the DeVos program, who owns the Orlando Magics, for that program that she was in, my ex was in. So she got into that program. Now, I go to a seminar in Orlando at the University of Central Florida. I meet Jeff O'Brien's mentee, who actually, his name was Justin Miller, who becomes my mentor. And he has a grad program at the University of South Florida. And then I become his graduate assistant for men's and women's basketball and football. And I got into the grad program that way. It's a relationship.
Absolutely.
Like, that's why I'm like, just like me saying that, I'm like, holy crap, that is crazy. Like, me saying it out loud and thinking about, like, damn. And all that started in high school because I met Jeff O'Brien, who I'm still in contact to this day.
But it's like a spider web that just keeps going out and out. But that's the craziest thing about it is literally in this discussion that we've been having, how many names you're like, oh, I can't really remember that person. You are like this person, you remember these people because they've made an impact on your life.
Exactly.
You know, and it's like, I think that the way that you navigate both personally and professionally, you're doing the same thing too. You're building these networks. You're trying to make like a lasting impression on people because you are a good person, you know? So you're like, what I can do for somebody is what they've done for me in the past. Like, it's just like, you know, paying it back to society, which is amazing. Yeah.
And that's the thing about like I mentioned earlier, Tony Hansen. And when I decided to leave his team, it was the hardest decision for me to leave his team. Because when I first got there, this is England. He's like, yeah, you know, we got in there really late. We had practice. He's like, stay at my house. I have a room. I was like, okay, cool. I stay at his house, go to practice, wake up. And the next day he's like, just stay here again. So I stayed 2 days with him. And then after that, he's like, all right, let's go to the coach's office. So I'm like, all right, cool. We go to the coach's office. We're driving in the slums of Middlesbrough, England. And when I'm telling you, house boarded up, house boarded up, nothing, house boarded up. It was the hood, slums. So I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, well, this is where you're going to be staying. I was like, bro,
Like, can I
this
stay in
hood is
that spare bedroom permanently? Thanks.
exactly. This was like the hoodest. This, like I said, I grew up in a bad area, in some bad areas. But I was like, man, this ain't got nothing on that. We go upstairs and I'm like, it's a completely different ambiance upstairs, but there's just no Wi-Fi and the neighborhood was bad. So he's like, we meet with the coaches. He was the owner and the GM at that time. We meet with the coaches, we're talking. And then next door was a place. And then we checked it out. He's like, yeah, this will be your spot. And all right, let's go back home. His wife, who I love very much, Sandy. I remember hearing that conversation. Pierre is not going to stay at that god awful place, Tony. No way. And I'm like, what the hell? So Tony's like, hey man, he was a Jamaican. It was the coolest accent. I know two people with the coolest accent. He's a Jamaican. His name, one of my teammates, Dwayne Anderson. He's Jamaican. He's from Wolverhampton, England. And Tony had a Jamaican accent with an English accent. It was the coolest thing. He'd be like, yeah, man, you can't go that way, man. Like he would just have like this cool accent. I'm like, yo, this is dope. Like he's got a dope accent. So he's like, hey, the boss lady said you can't go, blood. And I'm just like, hey man, it's if you
We're
want me to
gonna
stay
listen
here,
to Boss
yeah,
Lady. We are
yeah,
going to.
yeah. And
Because
I
I
was in a
just
perfect
saw the conditions and I'm definitely not going there.
Katie, I shit you not. That was a rough place. I'm like, damn. But it was close. And they gave me a car, and I was like, I'm not driving that car because it drove on the other side of the road. I was terrified.
Yep, I
I
don't
was like,
blame
I'm not
you.
driving. So I'm like, I'm cool. But Tony told me to stay at his house, and he invited me in, and I loved every second of being a part of the family. Like I had I'm still in contact. When he passed away, I was with him. We did a camp. I forgot when we did it. I invited him. He was in Connecticut. We came to Connecticut. I was like, hey Tony, you have to come. Tony comes, he sees what I did, and he loved it. He was so proud of me, like extremely proud. He doesn't drink. He had a beer with me. I had him to drink a Corona. He drank the Corona. It was cool. The one thing I regret is that we didn't get to take a picture, but we was just vibing so much. Like I still remember that whole situation, the whole scenario. And then when he passed away, I remember going to his house. We was like, we go to he's a legend at UConn too, by the way. He's a second or third all-time leading scorer at UConn, I think, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken. So we go to his house. The funeral service was at UConn. We go to his house and we're all sitting there. And I remember Sandy was like, she says the story. She's like, man, when you came back home, I couldn't let you go back there.
You were her
I was like,
son. She's like, come here. I'm going
ask
to
my
keep
mom.
you close by.
Yeah, ask
Yes.
mom. I'd be like, whenever I ask, I'm like, how's mom doing? Like the brothers, they're like little brothers to me. I'm like, how's mom doing? How you guys doing? Like, they still like it was such a great feeling. And that guy was just like I said, Tony was one of those people that he just is the impact that he made on everyone. And like I said, it was a relationship. Like for him, it was a relationship. I met him through her friends, her father's friend. And then he happened to come watch me play at a pro-am and then offered me a contract right then and there, right
Isn't that
after he watched me
incredible?
play. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I said to people, I'm like, listen, man, you go to college, relationships, activity groups, fraternities, whatever you got to do what you got to do. Of course, get your education. Don't waste your parents' money. Don't waste your money, whatever it is. Don't get kicked out of school and lose your scholarship. But, get that relationship. That's important. So right now, like one of the initiatives that we're trying to do, one of my teammates, we're going to try, where this summer I'm planning on inviting, maybe 10 to 20 kids from England to come train with me and then hopefully help them try to find a school. And that's something that Tony did for a lot of people. He brought a lot of good talent to America. Every year he would come home, he would seek out schools and coaches and bring these kids to work out in front of the coaches and these coaches to take them. We want to continue that legacy for him. So that's one of the initiatives that, like you was talking about, like, really diving into cultures and really being a part of that. And that's something that, I want to do for Tony for that reason, is to be able to do that. So that's huge. Like for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, even talking about it, I'm like, man, I can't wait. I can't
Well,
wait
and
to.
it's so funny that literally you just mentioned legacy because in my head the whole entire time I'm just like thinking like this is Pierre's legacy, like what you are doing right now. And it's like funny to think about it because it's like, like when you get super old and you're going to be gray and you're on a cane, walking around and you're like, oh, Pierre's legacy. And it's this and that. But it's like you were in the middle, like present day of creating your legacy, which is so amazing. Like you've accomplished so much in your youth. We're so young, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But you've like really done so much, and just like a snapshot of your life, it's like you were a husband, you were a father, you are a teammate, you are a competitor, you are, an educate, you're all these different things, you're a friend, like you are so much. And it's like, it's just so crazy to think about like how much like you have influenced other people, again, professionally and personally, like thus far in your life. It's so crazy to think about it. Like when you actually sit down, you're like, wow, I have done a lot for myself and for others. Like it's just so cool to think about that.
And that's sometimes I don't, and it's crazy you say that because sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. You know what I mean? And then when I do have conversations like this and people say that, I'm like, they always say celebrate your wins. And I'm like, I'm still trying to win more. And it's not some like narcissistic like type of thinking or, I'm just like that legacy word means a lot because I try to instill that in my kids, like that last name. Like I'm trying to build for my last name. Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen. Have you ever seen that Breakfast Club interview with Dame Dash, and he's just going off talking about you shouldn't have a boss and
no, probably, but it's like not in my head right now. But
so if you ever get a chance to go back, Dame Dash is loud. I mean, he's speaking. So sometimes people get turned off by it, but even with all that noise, he said something that was really valid. He's like, I'm working for my name. He's like, I want my name to live on. Like that was one of the pieces. And that's why I said, like, for my daughter, as girls and in society, women take on their husband's name. And I hate that. But I understand it. You know what I mean? So even with my wife, I'm like, yo, keep your last name, have mine. Because that's a legacy that your father might want to keep going.
Right.
She's like, no, I'm a Sully. I'm like, I respect that.
I mean, and so she has it tatted on her too. So it's like, it's permanent. It is
exactly.
Permanent.
Exactly. So it's, and like I try to do for my daughter, and it's just like, she loves being a Sully. You know what I mean? But she loves also being a Fisher because her mom's a Fisher.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, and I told her, I'm like, if you decide you want to take someone's name, that's your choice. But if you want to keep your name, that is also your choice. You gotta worry about what this man is telling you to do. Like, that's your name. Ain't nobody gonna take your name and tell them take my name. You have that choice. And if anybody respects you at that moment, they should understand like how much that name means to you. So for me, when I think about legacy, like I'm trying to have my name live on. It's like whatever way I could do it, whether it's building a facility, whether it's like for like, at the Reggie Lewis, my name is always going to be at the Reggie Lewis. My goal was to always have my name be somewhere else. I'm mad it's still not at Franklin Pierce. I got to figure out a way to get it up there, but it's got to be up there. And even with Northeastern, like my name is not up there, but my name is synonymous with people that are there.
Yeah. And that
like
holds just as much weight, to put your name on a banner or to really have a lasting impression. It's like, one is more desirable because people can actually visualize your name, but like sometimes like just your character and the way that you carry yourself and the relationships that you have hold just as much weight as like your name up on someplace.
So like I said, I'm just trying to I have a tattoo that says building my legacy. Like I like, as we're speaking about it, I'm just like, I knew when I first got it that what I wanted to do, like whether it's my kids, whether it's my work, but I want to build, I want to continue to keep building my legacy. And I want to leave something back behind. Generational wealth is one of the things that, they don't teach you, but it's something that I want to teach them. I want to build something so that my kids could enjoy it and not have to work so hard. And, whether it's like a facility, whether it's a building, they don't have to physically be there, but that's theirs. They could run it. They could be a CEO and not be there and just run it and do whatever their heart desires. But they know that at any day that they could come run, not work for the company. Like, I want them to have their own. So like, that's what I want when I think about legacy, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, I want my name to really live on. And because it's, my legacy from now, what I'm doing is, I want my father's name, which is Sully, and my brother's name who passed away. Like, I want them to have a presence in what I'm doing because I don't want to forget about them, and I'm not going to, but I want to be reminded. And that last name is something that is a legacy to me.
Absolutely.
So
I am
having that
gonna
young
like
woman.
slightly disagree with you though, quickly, because
Yeah.
it's like no shade, right? When you say, I don't want them to work super hard. First of all, I need to like
Yes.
rewind, okay?
Yes.
To 2 years ago at the basketball tournament at Emmanuel, and you had your table set up with your ATF merchandise there,
Yep.
right? And your daughter, my little pen pal, Peyton, love her. She was hustling to get your merchandise sold, right?
Sure
At such
was.
a little age. And it's
Sure
like,
was.
to no benefit of her than to get her dad's name out there, to get the merchandise sold, to be like the superstar of the day,
Yep.
running this little table. And yet she's running snacks to people and she's doing this and she's being little mayor over there. And I'm like, I think that you really set that work ethic in for her. So even if she didn't have to work hard, she will, and so will your son.
And
You
and
know,
I'm
like,
glad you said that, because when I said that, I'm thinking like you said, not work as hard. Like I try to instill like, yo, if you want it, you gotta work for it.
yeah,
And Peyton is like, when it comes to ATF, it's like Nike to her.
yes, yes.
And for Christmas, I got him ATF hoodies. Oh, finally, I can show it off. I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm like, man, it's just a hoodie. But she's like, yo, that's my dad's company. I'm
Yes.
like, no, that's your company. You know what I
You're
mean?
like,
So
I'm
like you
just
said, like,
borrowing it. I just hold the
yeah,
ownership of it till it can be
yeah,
yours. I'm
I'm
borrowing
doing
it.
this exactly. And that's what I said. I'm doing this for you guys. So when you guys, like the other prime example, over the weekend, she's with her mom. She comes back home. I was like, what'd you do this weekend? She was like, oh, I went shopping. I bought some new sandals. I was like, why would you buy sandals? And she's like, oh, because I wanted to. I said, P, you have your own sandal company, right? Sandal merchandise. She's like, do I? I said, yeah,
Check
we
the
have ATF
website.
slides. Yeah, I was
Yes.
like, we have ATF slides. She was like, oh, I didn't know. I was like, you have your own, you get your own. Like, you don't need to buy somebody. I was like, why are you gonna buy somebody else when you have your own? She was like, you're right. I didn't even think about it that way. And I'm trying to, and that's kind of like where, like, the merch and everything like that comes in. Like, I'm wearing a New Balance hoodie because I'm just wearing it. Like, I've done work with New Balance, so I'm like, I could wear a New Balance hoodie. But at the end of the day, like, I want to be able to represent my own stuff, and I want them to be able to represent it as well. So when you talk about hustling, like, P got the hustle in her because she's been in the gym since she was in the womb,
Yeah.
and she's heard the balls bouncing.
Really,
She's
honestly, though.
like,
Yeah, she had.
literally, and then she's born and she's in the gym. She's helping me to work out. She's at games. She's doing it. She's watching me watch basketball, watching me watch film, watching me break down stuff, and then she gets it because she understands how hard I work. But once again, is that her talk is, when we get, I know we're gonna get, I want to do this at the gym. That's going to be my job. And I'm like, you're going to run the gym. What am I going to do? I'm like, what are you good at? She's like, well, I'm good at designing. She's very imaginative. And I'm like, whatever way you want to run the company that you feel well, you feel it's going to help benefit. I said, that's going to be your job.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to get on it right now. Like, that's how she thinks. And, even with Dan, like, Dan's trying to figure it out. Like, I'm trying to show Dan different ways. And Dan is met him. He's personable. He's got a great, like, when he's around him, he's just like, yo, he's a cool kid. That's a cool kid.
He was like
People
so
grab it.
smooth, like even at like, I don't know, like age 5 or 6, right? Just like, because it was actually in Dre's backyard, I think is the first time I met Dan. And like Peyton comes running up and she's like, Katie, like sees me walking in and just like freaking out. She's like, this is my brother. Like, and that was the first time I met Dan. And he's like, slicker than a can of oil. He's like hopping from like picnic bench to picnic bench, just being like such a cool kid. And it's just
Mr.
like,
Daredevil. That's what I call him. I'm like, yo, dude, if you break something, we're not taking you to the hospital, so you better be careful.
Yeah, I was like, I like this kid. And the thing is like, because Peyton trusted me, he trusted me. So he's like, if he needed something, he's like, I need a juice box. He's like, Katie, can you come with me? And it was just like, so it's like, it's funny because again, like, I think the overarching theme of this is like, relationships and networks and all this stuff. And it's like, he was like, she's a good person because Peyton trusts her. And he felt comfortable coming to me. So off the strength of like his little sister knowing who I am, it's like, okay, she's a cool person. I can hang out with her now, so it's so funny. But I think honestly, Peyton was even at some of the boot camps that you used to host that you would kick
Yeah,
my ass at, and she
yeah,
was there even like
she was
super
there at
little.
all of them. Exactly.
So the fact is that
And
when you talk about like it was in the gym literally since like before she was even born, like I can attest to that because you would hold those boot camps and you would kick my ass every single time. And that was definitely like more when I was in shape. And I'm still like, I'm dying, I'm gonna vomit. Like, but it was so worth it.
you
And
killed it though. You stuck with it and you killed it.
thank you. And
You
speaking of
killed
the
it.
ATF hoodie.
Oh my God, I forgot about it.
Yeah. And then like I brought my friend one time. She's like, I'm never doing that shit again.
Oh
She's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
dead. But my ATF hoodie doesn't even fit anymore. I ended up donating it because I've gained so much weight. So I was actually on the website last night, like, I gotta get myself a new hoodie. It's high time. Like I had that stuff for years. I was like, this is amazing. But that's when I saw that the slides were on there. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they had sandals too. So that's why I like just discovered that last night.
I just had a meeting with them last week. Yes, a couple of days ago. I brought one of my athletes with there to he has an initiative called CHAP he's going to be doing. It's called Calm, Humble, and Patient CHAP. And he's running a foundation in Chester, PA. And he came up there and we were kind of like talking about the slide situations. It's like, new designs for the slides, gel packs, socks, and, things like that. I mean, with iSlide, it's their mantra in itself, standing what you stand for. You know what I mean? That's great. And I think like our collaboration with their company and like what we do, what we say is like, the harvest and, our mantra, they love it. They just love what we stand for. And I love what they stand for. So like when we're talking about merch and stuff like that, like the hoodies, right now we're doing a complete rehaul of the hoodies and we're ordering, we're in production for new hoodies now. And I can't wait to get it out because you don't think the craziest thing is like when we get royalty checks when people buy it and I don't care about it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, shoot, you guys are making the slides, they buy it. When they showed me the list of how many people bought the sandals, I was like, whoa. Like it was amazing to I didn't know that many people bought the slides. I know that I like hustled out the back of my trunk, like, hey guys, buy slides, like text people, send them links. But that's probably like 10 or 12. And there's been almost 100 people that's bought slides. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. It's just crazy to think about that because like you were hustling out of your boot, not your trunk. You were hustling out of the boot,
out of my boot. Out the boot.
Yes.
My English listeners, out the boot. Yeah?
Out the boot. No, but like you were hustling, but like again, like you having this business model and what you're selling as merchandise plays all back to the fact of you being a ball player. What are these athletes going to wear? You're leaving the gym and like normally I see, especially like my guy friends like Connor and X and all them that like, once they're done, they switch from their court sneakers to other sneakers, right? That they pack with them. But sometimes you're like, I don't even want to put other sneakers back on. Slides, like, boom, leave the gym, come into the gym, wear the slides. About like the cuts of the t-shirts, the hats, the sweatshirts, sweatpants, everything that you have, because that's like the standard uniform, like to show up to practice or, just to go play ball, like on a court down the street, just like casual. And I think that your merchandise is so relatable because it's like, this is like actual everyday stuff. Just like your brand is like actual, like everyday knit and grit. It's not like fancy. You don't have like blingy lights all over like the ATF sign. And you're like, oh, we're all about show. You're like, no, we're all about the work. Like that's what it's about.
No, exactly. And to be honest, and for the lifestyle brand, it's just like, I'm not a flashy person. I like to be behind the scenes, but at the same time, it's like, I want to rep what I believe in and my brand is what I believe in. So creating that for people like me and also creating it for guys that want to be flashy, whether it's like a big logo on the chest, whether it's a nice cursive writing, whether it's the colors, like the old ATF hoodie was black with the Volt green, like for being
that's
bright.
The one I had, I think, actually. Or no, or was mine white?
That was that one.
Right? I think so.
Yeah, yours was that one. Because I remember you got that one.
Because that was my favorite. That's my favorite color. So I think that's why I was like, yes, the logo. Yeah, it is. Because I remember, because I took a picture in my car and you reposted it. You're like, always a supporter. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yes.
So like I said, it's just, it's for every day. My goal is to not, I just want to make it for the everyday person. If you feel like throwing on some sweats on a Saturday and walking down Newberry Street, you're rocking the logo, it's cool. If you just want to throw on a hoodie when you're chilling in the house, watching TV, cool. If you want to throw sweats on when you're doing the whole, sitting on a couch, watching a movie, cool. Like, that for me is an everyday thing. And that's what I want to make sure, like, it's not just for the athlete, it's just for the everyday. And that's why I say it's like, it's for everyone, man. It's a lifestyle. And for me, it's comfort. It's not just how many colors and how many things I can stick on it. It's just like simplicity always says a lot. And I think when you start to get really eccentric and, over the top, that's when it's just like, it's only made for a certain demographic.
Yeah.
I can only sell it to those fashionable sneakerheads or whatever. What about you? You ain't gonna wear a friggin' hoodie with all those like,
but your messages are simple. It's like harvest, or like you would have like your logo. Like, it's not like you're just trying to show up with like new color combos every season and do this. You're like, it's to the message. Like, it's to the point. This is what we're about. We're humble, but like, we're the greatest. That's it. Right? Oh my God, Pierre, I've had such a nice time talking to you, and I would talk to you for like a million times over, but I just looked at the clock, and in 15 minutes I have a facial appointment.
There you go. Keep up. I feel you. I need mine. Naomi keeps telling me, like, go do something. I'm like,
come meet me. By the time I leave and get there, you'll be there at the same time. No, kidding. But thank you so much for this, because it's so good to like just catch up with you and like hear everything, from your perspective on how life has been lately and where you've been.
No, I appreciate it. This is definitely something that I didn't expect. I'll tell you that, because when I do podcasts or vlogs or Zoom calls and stuff like that, it's always geared towards basketball, and it's good to have a different insight for people to get a different side of me, because like I said, a lot of times people don't know, they just see what they see and they just assume and it's all about the hoops, but it's a lot deeper than that. It's more than athletics, like we say. So
there you go. That is honestly your tagline anyway. So.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I appreciate this. I really enjoyed this.
No, this was amazing, and I hope you come back soon and you can tell us, like, maybe at like fall, once you get back from Bulgaria, we'll have a follow-up, something, because then you're going to say, I can finally travel and do this.
I know, right? Yes. Exactly.
So you get to travel while telling kids or teaching them to not travel, right? That's
exactly.
such a dumb dad joke.
Be careful when you travel. Like, don't travel though. Like, wait, what? Can't we go? No, you can't go, but I can go. Like, nah.
No, I mean traveling basketball.
Yeah, I was
like, my stupid dad joke. I was like, go travel to teach these kids how to not travel.
Exactly.
And on that note, I have to sign off because that joke did not go. It's like,
but that's true Katie fashion right there. So I can't even say, I can't even let you play yourself like that. That was good. I got you.
I'm so awkward. I'm like, that's my motto. I'm so awkward. But Pete, I love you. Thank you so much.
Love
and
you too, Kate.
I can't wait to see you in person.
I know. Can't wait for you to meet him too.
But I know, baby Mav, I need to tell the fam I said hello.
I will definitely.
Tell Pete I'm always ready for a letter. I will send you my new address. I'm like, no big deal.
Gotcha.
You're the best. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Later.
Bye.